It was about 10 days, I think, in the winter of 1964. And I know that because I had a good friend who had often been at the island, and he got a transfer away from Dunedin, and that was the middle of 65. And I know that it was the winter before that. I just felt like a bit of time out. I lived here with a friend, and sometimes I felt I'd just like to be on my own. She wasn't in favour of the idea at all. She thought I'd get mugged or robbed or something. But no, I was perfectly okay. Nobody came to the island while I was there except a couple of chaps I met somewhere up on the saddle of the island, and I appeared fairly unexpectedly for them, and they told me they'd come to look at the sheep because they were thinking of buying some. And I very nearly said, that's a lie, we're not selling. But they took themselves off pretty smartly. And another time I was in the kitchen just getting breakfast, minding my own business, and there was tramp, tramp, tramp on the veranda outside, and a couple of chaps passed the kitchen window. Well, they just opened the door and walked in, and you should have seen their faces. They turned out to be from the little ship Iona that travelled up and down the harbour every day, checking on all the lights, the port and starboard lights for the channel. And they said to me they sometimes came over to the island. They knew there would be nobody there, and they made themselves a cup of tea, and they were quick to say they left everything clean and tidy. So I should have said to them, well, next time you just bring a thermos with you. But whether they ever came back again, I don't know, but they were certainly surprised that way. I don't think anyone else in the community did that sort of thing at that time, because that was before Dave Wilson's day. He was the first resident warden we had. I can't remember the dates, though, when Dave first came as a warden. Yes, I had a friend who was a clergyman, nothing to do with the church I went to. He was just a friend from another church, and he lent me a book that was brand new for him. He'd been given it, and I think it was called something like a Minister's Day book, and it had readings and meditations and prayers for 4 times a day, right through the whole year, which sounds like a big fat volume, but it wasn't. It was just a slim little book. And he lent it to me and said, would I use it and tell him what I thought of it? So I did use it, and I was surprised at how good it was to have a structured time during the day. I'd never done anything like that before. And so I used Doug's book and was very grateful for that. I did a lot of exploring of the island while I was there for that 10 days. In the mornings, I set myself some task, cleaning windows or something or another, knocking the heads off thistles. and in the afternoon I did the exploring. I never actually gave safety a thought because, especially down at Nichols Passage, the channel between Quarantine and Goat Islands, I climbed down the cliff faces to get to some low tide caves that I hadn't known were there. And with hindsight, of course, it was completely stupid because it was long before the days of cell phones. If I'd had an accident, I really would have been finished. I don't know whether other people in the community did this, because this was long before Dave Wilson became warden. And did I have a favourite place? Well, I think the cemetery was always a favourite place, strange as it sounds, because I'd put a lot of time into finding the deaths. Oral tradition said there were 72 people buried in the cemetery. I think I got the numbers up to the early 60s simply by checking records and newspapers. The records at the crematorium were the cemetery records for Dunedin, but they didn't have all of the deaths at the island. In fact, I think very few of them. In the First World War, there were returned soldiers quarantined for smallpox, I think it was, and 3 of them died on the island, but they are actually buried in Anderson's Bay Cemetery. And because the graves for returned servicemen were all consecutive, as it were, these 3 are way out of order by dates. One was Private Speedy, was a Private Love, and I forget offhand who the 3rd one was, but they were all close together at Anderson's Bay. Did I have a favourite place? Well, yes, the cemetery, because I felt that was a place with real atmosphere. This quilt was made behind my back, all secretly, by various community members, organised by Queenie Scott Fife. It was Christian Bracey, Angela somebody, Kathy Morrison, I can't remember who else, but they collected pieces of material that meant something to people in the community. That's Peter Matheson's father's Suckers blues tie from Edinburgh University. That was from Kathy's blouse, which she first wore when she was a marriage celebrant. That was from George Vella King's pyjamas. That's Jimmy Fife's jacket. A lot of them I can't remember now. Bruce McEwen made this. It's not actually a teddy bear, but it looks exactly like it. he just sliced through a piece of wood. He was a wood carver. This black diamond here was part of a T-shirt by Queenie's Home Help. She saw people working on this. She asked what they were doing, and when they told her, she took up a pair of scissors and she chopped a piece off the bottom of her T-shirt and said, "I'd like to be in it too." I don't remember her name, I'm sorry. Now some of them I've forgotten entirely. It's Douglas's shirt, I remember. There's another piece that's got paint spots all over it. It's a pity some of the photos have faded. I know that's my eldest sister Beverly doing a bit of plastering in the chapel. She died just a few years after that. Judith's birthday, there's one somewhere here of the sand cake that the children made down on the beach for Judith. Oh, I can't find it now amongst. It's Dave Wilson, who was the first warden at the island. We'd never had anyone living there permanently for the community before that. There are some photos that are quite historic, like that one. The building here was just starting to be demolished between what's now the cottage and the Macrocarpa hedge. It was the single men's quarters in quarantine days. That you can barely see, but it's the two harbour ferries, Waikana and Wairika, and the quarantine island jetty here. That's John Dougal and his wife and their son Will Dougal. He was the first warden of Quarantine Island in the 1860s, and after the parents left the island and retired, Will Dougal was old enough to take over as keeper of quarantine. In that photo he's only about mid-teens. I tried to hang this somewhere where it was out of direct sunlight, but even so, some of the photographs are coming to bits. That's Judith Ellis and the sand cake that the children made for her birthday. I think it was her 80th, I'm not sure. Somewhere there's a photo of me sitting at the entrance to the cave, but I can't find it now. It's the only one of me that's here. And Is Pav, who's Joe's husband, he carved this for me. I had said that there were 72 people buried in the cemetery, and according to the known records, about half of them were children. And he carved this for me, and he carved children's feet all along it.
Was that her with Judith? And who gave that?
It's George's pajamas. George Vella
Who's
King.
that one then?
That's another. That's Toria's born towel.
Yeah, that's a good one.
She cut off a piece. It was what she was wrapped in when she was born. So that was very special to her. Queenie's dress that she had for something she danced in when she was a little girl. This was what Toria called her born towel, Toria Scott Fife. It's a piece of the towel she was wrapped in when she was born, and she cut off a piece for this. And I think that's a scarf that Joe Hunter's mother brought back from Turkey. That's a piece of George Vella King's pajamas. And Kathy, the blouse she wore when she was first a marriage celebrant, and that's Peter Matheson's father's soccer blues tie from Edinburgh University.